Let us start before the beginning. Where do we come from? Where do the Haberfelds come from?
Well, I think I'm very sorry, but you see, I really didn't have much communication with my father. But basically, I would say that the Haberfeld originated from Czechoslovakia.
From Czechoslovakia?
Yeah, I think they originated from there, and from there they spread quite around the Eastern European countries, and most of them in Poland.
Why do you say Czechoslovakia?
Because the name, well, let's change. Let's turn that round. What I just said. I think originally the name Haberfeld is not particularly a Jewish name. No. So if translated into English properly, it would be Haverfield. Somebody had a field. In other words, my ancestors must have worked in Germany, and they must have been something to do with agriculture, farmers. I would say they were farmers, and also the name Haberfeld is not very prolific. You don't find many Jewish people called Haberfeld. So I would say that from Germany they settled in Czechoslovakia, and then from Czechoslovakia they went eastwards towards Poland. And there are still one or two people in Czechoslovakia by the name of Haberfeld.
What does that mean about our Jewish ancestry? Is there a possibility that we are descended from some non-Jews?
Well, I think that the history, I don't think that the Jewish people originally, when they were expelled from the Holy Land, that they originated from non-Jews. I think a Semitic race, and I think they came from the kingdom of Israel, and they were conquered by the Romans, and then expelled right over all through the world. And the first settlement of the Jews expelled were in Germany. And I think that Germany wasn't at that particular time one state. They were little kind of kingdoms spread in Germany. And the Jews, when they came to Germany, they didn't have surnames, just by the first name and the name of their father. So if I was called Nathan, I would be Nathan ben Yaakov. My father was Jacob. But the Germans didn't get on with that. So they renamed them according to the work they were doing. And if they were carrying water, they were called Wassermann. If they were a tailor, they were called Schneider. And Haberfeld, as I said to you before, must have had something to do with the land. Later on, obviously, what happened, we had the Crusaders, First Crusade, Second Crusade. I think that a lot of the Jews, on the way, the Crusaders also started persecuting Jews and killing Jews on the way to the Holy Land. And I think a lot of Jewish people, especially women, were raped, and that's why you have the Ashkenazi type of Jew. If you look at them, many of them have got sometimes Gentiles features, Semitic features, because maybe the blood was intermixed. And to say that we're a pure race, I couldn't tell you definitely, but what the rabbis did is that because the women were raped, they issued an edict that any child born to a Jewish woman is Jewish. It doesn't matter what the father is, if he's Jew or non-Jew, the child is got the right to be Jewish. So that's your answer to your question.
So we surmise that the Haberfelds originated in Czechoslovakia, possibly Germany,
Yeah,
and then Czechoslovakia.
yeah.
Seeing as Haberfeld is a distinctly German name. And then from Czechoslovakia, our ancestors spread out through, I suppose, what was called the Pale, mostly into Poland.
Well, the trouble was that the Jews found themselves in very difficult situation at that particular time in Germany during the periods of when Christendom took roots in Europe. Especially the Catholic Church wasn't very kind to the Jews. Eastern Europe hasn't yet been converted, and the Polish kings invited the Jews to come to Poland because they thought if the Jews come, they'll have business and they're good with commerce, and they were actually invited to come to Poland. And as life got tougher in the German-speaking countries, persecution, and the Jews moved eastward from Poland to Czechoslovakia, from Czechoslovakia to Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and they went over to Russia, onto the Pale, and spread all over Eastern Europe. And they were welcomed and protected by the Polish kings until Poland became converted to the Catholic faith. And then life started being harder for the Jews. But because there were so many of them in Poland, we're talking about the European Jewry in Poland, the Jewish population in Poland before the Second World War were 3 million people. And they had clout, they had power, and many of them were business people, also educated people, writers, teachers, doctors. But the majority of the Jews didn't really mix with the non-Jewish population. They used to say them and us. They congregated mainly in certain quarters. So where I was born in Poland, it wasn't a ghetto, but it was like, in Rosbing, the Jews lived in Rosbing or in Ilova or Greenside, they mainly congregated where they had shuls and they had their kosher shops and their butcher shops. So the same thing in Warsaw. There was a quartier where the Jews lived, and many of them were quite religious Jewish population. There were also Jews who were assimilated, and they didn't particularly live in the Jewish areas. They lived in Gentile areas, but there were not many of them, very, very few.